and the third wants passage of 24 health sector bills.
The proposed increase of the Federal High Court justices from 70 to 90 will significantly improve the judge-to ratio, enhance the speed and quality of adjudication, and allow for greater judicial specialization in technically demanding areas such as terrorism.
3 motions of urgent national importance bordering on security of lives and property were also adopted. Usman Kumo's motion called attention to the death of 6 persons and the abduction of over 20 others by bandits in parts of his constituency in Gombe State.
Urge the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to, as a matter of urgency, direct the Chief of Defense Staff to initiate a coordinated joint security operations to flush out the bandits.
Ondo State Legislator Donald Ojogo also seeks the intervention of the National Boundary Commission in preventing looming communal clashes between Ilaje and parts of Ogun State.
Without any constitutional instrument designating Eba Island or the Eba oil field as part of Ogun State, media opinions and publications have twisted historical facts by insinuating that Eba Island belongs to Ogun State.
River State member Awaji Inombek Abiante applauded the judiciary for creating a special desk to address the problem of femicide raised by the House months ago. He also drew attention to critical bills yet to be passed by the Senate.
There is a bill before the Senate, and that bill intends to make the provision of closed-circuit televisions compulsory in all public places. Heads of intelligence units in the various services had made contributions towards this bill. But as we speak, the bill is still lying somewhere for reasons I do not know.
The House also resolved to begin debate on the general principles of the 2026 appropriation bill at the next legislative date. Joke Edson, TVC News, Abuja.
The federal government is set to engage retired military personnel to reclaim ungoverned spaces and strengthen national security. This development follows the inauguration of an 18-member committee by the Minister of Defense, retired General Christopher Musa, on reclaiming ungoverned spaces for economic viability and the repositioning of the Nigerian Legion Corps of commissionaries and veterans. In a statement by Deputy Director, Information and Public Relations, Endelin Chukwu, the minister, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, stressed that the repositioning of the Nigerian Legion is part of a broader commitment to ensure veterans are not left behind.
As distinguished senators be allowed to go home with this bill, and when we come tomorrow, which is the next legislative day, but it's important that distinguished colleagues are allowed to go home with copies, and that we also have a brief closed-door session before we resume plenary to consider this.
I rise to second this very important motion moved by the Senate leader, considering the nature of the matter in question and the volume of the material to be discussed. I second the motion as simply moved by Senate leader. I so second.
If we get it right, then all Nigerians will smile. We have a free and fair election. We take our time and then we make sure we do the needful, and we ensure that justice is done to all and sundry, and the bill will save the interests of Nigerians and ensure free and transparent elections.
Let's go on a short break, everyone. When we return, the conversation begins. Please stay with us.
Get ready to step into the heartbeat of your city like never before. Welcome to Events Diary, where every moment is a celebration. From the electric energy of Owambe extravaganza, to the richness of our culture, to the sophistication of corporate gatherings, Events Diary is your VIP pass to the hottest gatherings in Nigeria. And guess what? I'll be your guide, your style icon. Each week, join me as I transform from traditional chic to corporate sleek. Whether it's a birthday bash or a high-profile gala, you won't just see it, you'll feel like you're right there with me. Aww. From meetings to evening soirees, I'll be there. or to the trendiest street festivals or to music concerts, Events Diary has something for everyone. So join me as we explore the vibrant tapestry of Nigerian scene, one event at a time.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Honey, what time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thank you very much for staying with us. Nigeria is set to strengthen its bilateral relations with Italy, just days after President Bola Tinubu's high-level engagement with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. With a focus on trade, investment, security cooperation, and international engagement, this development underscores Nigeria's evolving foreign policy strategy and growing presence on the global stage. President Tinubu's visit holds immense significance and happening at a time the nation is gaining global attention for very good reasons. But how does Nigeria's engagement with Turkey complement its growing relationship with Italy? Are we seeing a coordinated strategy to diversify Nigeria's international alliances? What message does this send to the global community about Nigeria's position? And joining me to shed more light on what this strengthened relationship means for Nigeria and its global engagements is Gloria Okolugo, a consultant in communications and international engagements. Tonight, she will share an expert insights into the significance, prospects, and wider implications of this evolving Nigeria-Italy partnership. Good evening to you, madam. Thank you very much for joining me on Politics Tonight. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you again. Good evening.
Thank you very much. So we're at a time when Nigeria is strengthening bilateral relations with Italy, shortly after President Tinubu's meeting with the Turkish president. From a foreign policy perspective, what does this sequence of engagements tell us?
It's very engaging times for this country, and it's also happening at a time that multilateral relations are very important. The present administration is pushing very hard on its 4D administrative focus. Its foreign policy focus is on a tripod of 4 pillars, and it's called the 4D, and they're walking the talk. So this rapid interactions that border on diplomacy with Italy immediately after the Turkish visit, and the Turkish visit actually followed Davos. We had the Nigerian house at Davos, which Nigeria had its house for the first time. So there's been a whole lot of activity on international diplomacy, and it's crystallizing into a lot of agreements. And then thereafter, we're talking about more important things that that kind of will be necessary to lay the pipelines, as it were, to deliver these agreements, all the efforts of Mr. President.
So the president is called the chief marketer of the country for all the reasons obvious to Nigerians. It has been the image maker since he assumed office. I mean, for the past 2.5 years, he's taken foreign diplomacy more seriously than we've seen in past administrations. This is me boldly saying this, securing over $50 billion in investment pledges through strategic partnerships with major global powers. We've seen this with China. We saw this with India, the UAE, Germany, France, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. And also yesterday with Turkey. Why is Italy a significant partner for Nigeria at this point in time?
Well, Italy has had this 60-year relationship with Nigeria, and it's been quite some years. And Nigeria, obviously, is a very important corner for Europe at a time like this. It's showing in the dual agreement between Nigeria, or tripartite agreement between Nigeria, France, and Italy at the same time, which is quite unusual. I was talking about the 4Ds, which is the pillars of our international engagement, which has to do with democracy, development, demographics, and diaspora. This is especially the diaspora component, it's germane at a time like this. It's very important at a time like this because after all of the flashy handshakes, the cameras, the agreements, and the spirited efforts of the president, it has to translate in institutions being put in place so that the people, the diaspora, the exchange between both countries, the bilateral relations really happens and stabilizes the trade between both countries in such a way that both trade, migration, and security is improved. And then that way we begin to see the dividends of all of the chief marketer. Indeed, the president has been a real chief marketer in every sense of the word. But that's just the beginning. For instance, the Minister of State for International Affairs actually hit it on the head when she's foreign affairs, when she said that after 60 years of bilateral relations, there is no binational commission between Italy and Nigeria. And that's like being engaged for 60 years and you're not married.
But how important is that in foreign diplomacy?
Oh, it's highly important because that's like, what lays the pipeline for you to deliver water. Now, the ambassador of Italy said clearly to, when he came to interact with foreign affairs minister, he said clearly that there are three major concerns. Firstly, there's the issue of illegal migration. Of course, when we talk about Italy, most people, what comes to the mind is the boats across the sea, the crossings in the Sahara Desert, all of the illegal migration. They obviously want the boats to stop. By the same token, they want security because the insecurity within the zone, and counterterrorism is very important so that the spillovers will not affect the entire region. The whole of Europe, the whole of the world is worried about the axis, So, and naturally, we had a very sound answer. And I was very impressed with the preparation of Nigeria around its diplomacy because the minister said to him, yes, we'll deliver this, but you can't keep shutting us out. We have to have legal migration. We have to have business and trade across board. Let's not forget the most important sector that Nigerians occupy or they have access to in Italy is the informal sector. And that's because there's a lot of shutouts when it comes to legal pathways to migration. And a lot has been done in that area. Unfortunately, I think they're not talking about it enough in the media. So here I am trying to talk about it. Let me break it down in layman's terms, because most times when people think about Italy, they think about Nanti, they think about the negative aspects of migration to Italy. But it will shock you to know that out of the average 150,000 Nigerians that are legally documented and resident in East Italy, you have about 80% of them that are male. They're not even female. And the statistics for the past 3 years has shown that the axis to be worried about is Osun, Calabar, Zamfara, and FCT. So Benin City, which was a subject of worry, is not indicated as a major issue when it comes to illegal migration in Italy anymore. And that's good news for me. There's not been a lot of research and statistics and follow-up to the things that the Oba of Benin did. We witnessed when the Oba of Benin came on the throne and all the spirited effort he made to end the issues that were around illegal migration and exploitation and abuse. And obviously, the statistics for the past 3 years is showing that there's results. And so we're talking about the fact that now you're having about 80% male immigrants who are working, and then there's the lure of, okay, come over, start working, and then you have access. The laws allow you to bring in your family. But there are lots of situations that make it very difficult for people to bring in their families legitimately. At the same time, there's the diaspora remittances, which is very important to our economy. Right. So that's why you're trying to say something, or can I go on?
We'll get there in a minute. But, whilst we're seeing all of this MOUs, this agreements signed, and we're hoping that some of this agreements being signed on television translates into something tangible for Nigerians. We'll continue to talk about the expectations of Nigerians as we see this agreement signed on television. So let's go back to Italy, because we're dealing with a country that is second largest manufacturing country in Europe and the second largest globally. From your own experience and from what you know, what you can tell us tonight, what are the economic benefits Nigerians could gain from, stronger ties with such a country? Are there specific industries where, Italy's expertise could help Nigeria's development agenda?
Basically, the informal sector is made up of a lot of agricultural modernization and development. That is what really employs a lot of the Nigerians that are there. There's a lot of food, agro-related industrialization. And I think it was March 2025 when the FCT minister visited Italy, and there were two agreements that came out of that visit, if I'm not mistaken. There was an agreement of modernization of agriculture, and then there was an agreement for a vocational institute. And you ask me, okay, it seems as if it's just a vocational institute, but that is an open pathway to legal migration, because if you have a vocational institute that, has a joint Nigeria-Italy qualification or certificate, that actually enhances the capacity for mobility and the capacity to seek, legal pathways to be employed in the industries legally from here in Italy, or in the industries that will be set up here in Nigeria. Of course, that brings me to the second part, which is the modernization of our agriculture here in FCT. For me, a resident of FCT as at now, I'm excited about that, And then also it brings me to what the Minister of State said to the ambassador. Open up the mobility for us. And that's like saying, let the businessmen cross from Nigeria to Italy. If you close the visa space, and that is very important that we do across board in all of the countries that the president has been taking all of the pains, we must take the issue of mobility, and that is access to visas. Because when people are more informed about the importance of all these other countries, then there's no zeroing down on just one country. You have multilateral relations across Europe. You also have them, in other countries that are very, very important, where you have, trade and commerce thriving. So for Italy, agro is the most important aspect that we are exploring, and a lot has been done. The FCT minister has 2 MOUs on ground. There are agreements already, and there's the talk about the commission. Now, if the federal government and the Italian government go ahead and at least let us have that first meeting of the binational commission. Let us see talks, not just talks about the arrests, across the borders and stopping the ships. Let us see the commission put in place, because the thing about this commission is, though it represents bureaucracy, it's not just about bureaucracy. It's actually something that will be above the whims and caprices of any one administration. Because if there's a change in administration, or there's a change in posture of any administration, for instance, like it has happened to us with the US, where we're suddenly shut out of visas, new visas. Of course, those who have their subsisting visas can still legally transit. But then just one policy across board will not send us into a frenzy of, having new meetings with various administrations if you have structure. And that's why democracy is all about institutionalizing things, putting structure to things. So the binational commission puts an institution in place that ensures that there's discussions, there are ongoing processes that are worked out to ensure that the issues around, legal migration are handled. The issues around having access to families while you're working, the issues around security to jobs, and not just taking where you have engineers going to pick tomatoes because there's no other options after they have crossed over. The issues around those things are sorted out through this commission. Again, the commission can be of a lot of assistance to those in diaspora, because our policy captures the diaspora, and that's very important. Because at the end of the day, you see handshakes across board, you see boardroom discussions and all that, but you find the average Nigerian man that is, that has migrated. He's talking about access to accommodation, proper accommodation. It's, with research, you find out that for you to bring each child to Italy, you must have a certain space, I think 14 square meter, for each additional child you're bringing. So you must make sure that you have that space in place. And then for you to have accommodation rentals, you must have employment naturally for you to migrate. And so because you need to have employment, you have to have employment before you can ask for permits. But meanwhile, you're actually allowed to seek permits, but the permit will have to ask you to, the employer will need, the evidence of your permit to employ you. Meanwhile, to get a permit, you need an employer. So it's contradictory, and there are lots of things to be trashed out. And it is at the level of the commission that all of these issues can, come to the table. Of course, we have the cabotage laws.
But overall, are we seeing a coordinated strategy to diversify Nigeria's international alliances? Also, what message does this send to the global community about Nigeria's positioning?
Nigeria is showing that it has the capacity and the understanding of what it takes to dynamically navigate its international affairs. However, the most important thing is the follow-up, the institutionalization, and the taking of these agreements seriously, the steps. If it ends at all of these movements, all of the efforts of the president will not crystallize too much. But if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with the commissions on diaspora, the different the ease of business office, for instance, because somebody wakes up in Italy and hears all of this fine conversation and says, okay, I've got this in agriculture, I want to land in Abuja and I'm ready to employ about 100 people and set up an industry. He gets in here, he has almost 12 agencies to navigate. But if he goes to the ease of business department and he really has it easy to set up his business, he can take off. But where there are hurdles, if those hurdles are not true, are not really physically removed from the space, all of these things become difficult. A binational commission will liaise to see that all of these things are actually working to ensure that these investors actually come and these things happen.
All right. I mean, we also have this, your renewed agreement with Turkey. We saw that on television yesterday. But if you're having this same conversation in 2 years, what should success, or what should we look out for success, or what should it look like for Nigeria, Turkey, Nigeria, India, Nigeria, France trade relations? What numbers should we be aiming for beyond some of these numbers we see on TV?
It's like when we're talking about the roles of the ambassadors that have just been appointed. Every country, the aim of your relations with every country differs, from country to country. We have the A-class countries, for instance, the US and the UK. And of course, the ambassadors, for instance, to those countries are representatives of the president themselves. So they are, they actually are speaking for the president. So just like he's the chief marketer, they're the chief marketers. And in this, we'll be talking about economy, commerce, trade, and all that. But if, for instance, you're posted to countries within the West African axis, you should be more concerned about security. You should be more concerned about gathering information on the issues that bother on the security within the Sahel countries. There also are countries that should be talking about our relations within the BRICS, the new BRICS bloc, and things like that. So all of the issue, Turkey, for instance, is from what you can see in the bilateral relations, the bilateral agreements and MOUs that are supposed to be signed, which I saw in the news, there are issues bordering on security, education, almost a lot of the things too that is on the table with Italy. So you don't do it with one country. That's why multilateralism, I keep saying it, is the answer. So you're talking about relations, looking at the strengths that you bring to the table, which also has to do with our demographics. I like the fact that we're not a country where by the time we're talking about 200 million strong population, we put that on the table proudly because it's something to reckon with. And there's no investor that will, even if it's pure water you're selling in this economy and you're selling it seriously, it's going to make something because you have numbers. So basically, we have a lot of technical know-how, that Turkey, like you call it on the international scene, but I'm used to calling it Turkey, puts on the table, and I think Nigeria is exploiting all of that. And at a time like this, where you have the changing dynamics in the world, at Davos in Europe, there was the setting up of a peace council, I think, by the President Trump. And that has changed a lot of things about the strength of the United Nations. It challenges the capacity of the United Nations to enforce a lot of things in the country. So there are lots of changing dynamics that has made it a necessity to look seriously into our relationship with other nations, what they bring to the table. But the most important thing is, in these relationships, there has to be a lot of protectionism on the part of Nigeria. And that's where qualified people is like,
Madam,
you can't take, you
let me
can't
quickly put
take
you on hold, and when we return, I'll allow you land on your thoughts, and also we may also take a look at the task ahead of Nigeria's new ambassadors. Please stay with us, everyone. This is Politics Tonight.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Get ready to step into the heartbeat of your city like never before. Welcome to Events Diary, where every moment is a celebration. From the electric energy of Owambe extravaganza, to the richness of our culture, to the sophistication of corporate gatherings, Events Diary is your VIP pass to the hottest gatherings in Nigeria. And guess what? I'll be your guide, your style icon. Each week, join me as I transform from traditional chic to corporate sleek. Whether it's a birthday bash or a high-profile gala, you won't just see it, you'll feel like you're right there with me. Aww. From meetings to evening soirees, I'll be there. Or to the trendiest street festivals or to music concerts, Events Diary has something for everyone. So join me as we explore the vibrant tapestry of Nigerian scene, one event at a time.
Experience information and entertainment like never before as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating entertainment news. Stay in the know with what's trending, catch up with the latest in sports, and immerse yourself in the latest buzz from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone. Greer Koligwe is my guest tonight. She's a consultant, communications and international engagement, as we focus on Nigeria set to strengthen bilateral relations with Italy. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program, madam. So, I mean, what's that one thing policymakers, businesses, or the public often misunderstand about international trade agreements like this?
Well, international trade agreements are very necessary. They're not jamborees. They are not travel for travel's sake. They are meant to pave way for policy implementation, for negotiations and implementations that take the burden from migration, that take the the need for illegal migration away from the people, that gives the people back their dignity. But like we say in development parlance, security does not, policing does not stop the desperation around economic desperation, around migration. So long as you have economic desperation within your shores, it is impossible to stop people. Most times they know the risk around illegal migration. It's impossible to actually stop people. And so since we're on politics today, while we talk about the international angle, the efforts are actually meant to help us relate with the international community so that we get it right. You heard me talking about this, the setting up of, the vocational center here, and then the issue of agro here. So taking it back to the politics here, mobility and legal migration can only be facilitated by having the proper things ingrained right here. And there's a lot that needs to be addressed with that. I know about my state, Delta State. So if I begin to talk about the issues, I'll take it back to my state, Delta, and to my Anioma land.
All right, quickly before I take you up on other issues, is Nigeria's foreign policy machinery actually or prepared for a world where the US is no longer a predictable leader?
I think the frenzy and all of the meetings that we are having with all of these nations is occasioned by that factor, by the fact that the shocks from the US, whether you like it or not, is taking the entire country by storm. There's a lot of efforts for people to get together and take collective action. But if you don't, collective action can actually be taken to say, look, we in international diplomacy, what you deal me is what I deal you. However, my capacity to deal you the same level of blow that you deal me depends on what I need from you and who has a stronger capacity to do so. So you can't say, okay, the borders are shut against you. You're going to shut the borders against peoples that you need for training, peoples that you need, for aid. And we're saying that we don't need aid. What we need is trade. And this administration, the policy of this administration is tending towards that right now. The most important thing is keep up the pace, address the issues at the local level, and that gives us a lot of leverage for us to begin to, negotiate properly from a proper point of view. This president was very big on restructuring. This president has very bold, initiatives, especially a lot of laws and policies that have come out of this administration. And that's what we are looking at to address a whole lot of issues. And I'm looking forward to you asking me questions in that direction.
But also, as an expert in consultative communications and international engagements, for those questioning the effectiveness of frequent trips in attracting foreign investments, for those who are saying capital is driven more by domestic conditions than physical presence, what's your perspectives on that?
Capital is driven by domestic conditions, and that has a lot to do with your laws. Like we have what we call the cabotage law. And that makes it difficult for a businessman, for instance, to come from Italy and set up a manufacturing company and probably, let's say, tomato, because they're good in tomatoes. You now have a tomato farm in Abuja, for instance, and then you process to puree, and then you want to export to Italy. You cannot do that by yourself. You have to have trusted partners, from Nigeria to do that with you. So that is a limiting factor that could affect the calculations of an investor. But that is necessary for us in Nigeria, it's a protectionist plan. However, there's the counterbalance because there is also a law that gives them the ability to repatriate their money. So you can actually sell, you can actually do commerce and repatriate your own profits while the money has worked within our economy, for some time. So that's why you have to have the enabling environment, you have to have the enabling laws in place to ensure that you have protection of your people. It's a two-way, it's a win-win, not an exploitative table, that you come to. You don't come to the table without knowing exactly what you are negotiating.
All right. Let's stay away from that for a minute. Let me take you up on a recent development that came out of the presidency. Last Thursday, the president approved the posting of 3 ambassador designates to to key nations, the US, France, the UK. Turkey was supposed to be a part of it, but guess that's on hold for now. And, you know, I believe that as a people, we can all agree that the postings of these ambassadors by the president marks a turning point in Nigeria's external relations. But how would you assess Nigeria's current global image, and what role do these ambassadors play in shaping this perception?
It's not a turning point. It's something that should have been done. And I'm glad that it is done, because a lot happened between when there were no ambassadors and, you know, it became obvious that we needed ambassadors. We didn't even have a permanent representative on the floor of the UN, you know. So it's very important for you to have your ambassadors, you know, and well, it's at a critical time that we are thankful they have come on board. So these countries, like I said, the A-class countries are the ones you're talking about. They're the voice of the president. When they speak out there, they're speaking on behalf of the president. And so they are the chief, just like you said, the president is the chief marketer. They're actually the chief marketers. They're out there looking for deals. They are deal makers. That's what they are. They are deal makers. They are looking and hunting for investments. They are talking about what is going on. And we need to hear their voices. We need to know what's going on. For instance, all of the things that I've talked about, Italy, for instance, the stigma around saying you want to go to Italy could remain there without people realizing that, no, there's no reason for a stigma. People can actually train, get certificated, and go to Italy.
What I'm asking is,
legitimately work.
Right. So what are the biggest misconceptions about Nigeria internationally now that these ambassadors should actively address?
We have real challenges. Let us face the fact that we have real challenges. And international relations, you must face your challenges, talk about them, and talk about the reforms, what you're doing about your challenges. We know that we have security challenges. That's a truth that we know. However, what are we doing? How positioned are we to ask for the right partnerships, not intrusions? We must be ahead to have discussions. We must explore our possibilities. In a democracy, you have the presidency, you have the judiciary, you have the House, you have the parliament, and you also have what we call civil society. We practically have a civil society that is being stifled, and that has dealt a lot of blow in our democracy. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what it means for the people's voice to get out there. Recently, we were hearing talk from lobbyists that it was a seller in Onitsha market, somebody who deals in what? They actually talked about what he deals with. You know, somebody who sells screwdrivers in Onitsha market, that it was on his research, based on his research, that we had the attacks that we had in Christmas. Although that has been disputed because a lot has been said prior to now over the years. There's a lot of documented information on the security challenges that we have. If you don't want the wrong narrative there, you need to work with the right partners to get the right narratives there. So every of these ambassadors need to look beyond, look at the unique challenge, the unique perception of these countries on what Nigeria is, and to begin to properly package the country as it should be. Like I said, they are deal makers. What are we doing about corruption? What are we doing about securing the digital space? What are we doing about fighting fraud? What are we doing? We're doing a lot. What is it? You need to tell us. It's not my portfolio to talk about it. So those who sit on these portfolios, tell us what we are doing about it. Which laws do we have in place to protect people's investments? Which laws do we have in place to trace and track money, following the money? Especially the laws. Laws are very important, and that's what keeps society sane. And that's what gives people reassurance, because security never actually stopped people from going to invest. If security would stop people from looking, they would chase the money. So long as there's commerce, there's viable commerce, people will come and invest. But what is it that secures that investment is the most important thing. And Nigeria is doing a lot about it. And it is the role of the ambassadors to package that for us.
And also, I would like to ask you if there have been some sort of communication gaps, because I mean, you just talked about packaging the country. Have there been some sort of communication gaps that have, historically weakened Nigeria's investment speech, and how must the new ambassadors correct that?
They have their communication teams. They have every ambassador, especially of the A-class ambassadors. For instance, the permanent representative in the UN has what you call ministers, 3 portfolios of ministers under him. They have huge capacity for the use of media and communication, both in their country and with communicating with us what they are doing there. Here is the capacity to use it and use it properly that matters.
Also, for the first time, 10 women have been included in this list. What does this milestone signal for Nigerian diplomacy? How does this compare with, you look at previous ambassadorial appointments in terms of gender representation? To what extent does this reflect a genuine commitment to gender equality?
I'm more concerned about capacity, first of all. The numbers are important, and so affirmative action should always give us the right numbers. But capacity beyond just numbers. So when you're considering the women, we should look at them based on their capacity and what they bring to their table and their ability to navigate. For everybody who has the capacity, they should be given the priority, especially in these difficult times where we have difficult relations, ability to, navigate the space and ensure that we have the right approach towards our diplomacy, the right approach towards making sure that our peoples are not stripped of their dignity, for them to relate, for them to, having migrated legally, for them not to be harassed, for them not to be hounded, to put some respect back to our documentation and things like that. And before we do that out there, we must address it inside here. Lately, there were bills there was a law that had to do with addressing the issue of our passport in Parliament. You cannot be talking so much about international. Local matters, because what you are packaging is what is happening at the local level.
I asked you about gender representation, first because you're a woman, and there are those who have said that milestone could, inspire more women to pursue careers in diplomacy and public service. But quickly, before we talk about security and politics, if time permits us, different countries and regions engage Nigeria for different reasons. We've talked about energy, security, markets, and geopolitics. How important is audience-specific messaging for Nigeria's ambassador? And has this been sufficiently institutionalized?
I didn't quite get you. You put about 4 questions together, so split them. Are you talking about talking about gender still?
No. Different countries and regions have engaged Nigerians. I mean, over the years, different regions have engaged Nigerians for different reasons. We've seen countries that have engaged Nigeria because of energy, some security, energy and markets or geopolitics. But how important is audience-specific messaging for Nigeria's ambassadors?
Well, I just talked about the massive capacity they have to, handle their portfolios. The office of an ambassador is basically that is, it's a very technical, you have both the career ambassadors and the political ambassadors. Most times the political portfolios are not given carelessly. They are given to people who are very experienced. And even where they don't have the diplomatic experience, they must deploy the right and qualified people as advisors, because often that is where the most important decisions lie. When you have the right advice based on professionalism, you can't get a plumber to come and attend to somebody who has a heart attack you're not going to get any result, from that. So, like I said, it depends on the country that they are it's a very broad question you're asking me. So they are country specific. And maybe I didn't talk much about the gender thing because lately the issue of competence, character, and assumed innate capacity of women to deliver, we realize with research that it's very important to build capacity. We have a lot of people who have capacity, both male and female, and identifying the right people for the right positions is where to start from. And when you get that right, then you begin to, get your diplomacy right.
All right. Let me ask you about Delta politics. Governor Sharif already joined the APC. And, when you ask most of them, when you ask them why they're aligning or why they're joining the APC, they'll tell you they're joining so the states could align with the center. What has changed since its defection into the APC?
Now, Delta State is an APC state. That's kind of an old story now. Delta State used to be a PDP state. Now it's an APC state. But out of Delta State being an APC state, we have been talking about unification. We've been talking about, transferring from the old issues that affected Delta State. The structure, the PDP, the old PDP structure, not carrying that over into APC. So I think Delta State is settling in. We're in the teething stages of, getting both the old APC and the new APC to bond together. It's very important to state that it's very easy to carry over and assume that you just carry over the old structures because it is everybody, as it were, that finally just crossed over and all the structures crossed over from PDP. But we have to remember that there were challenges that made PDP to crumble in Delta State. There's a historical precedence to that. So as the entire Delta structure is merging into one in APC, we are fast approaching Congress. It's very important for the structures and the laws that we met in APC to be respected because APC is a progressive platform. The constitutions of APC are clear and they should be respected by all. Beyond Delta State, I come from Delta North and I come from Anioma. And the issues of development are very important to us in Anioma land. We have been asking for Anioma State to be created because we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of skills. Part of our tourism, a lot of what comes out of Anioma qualifies to be part of Anioma land is an agro-based society. And so when I see somebody like the FCT minister go all the way to Italy and sign this MOU, we are hoping that we can get this through also for Anioma land because our people are predominantly farmers and our people are predominantly hardworking people. We have a lot of talents. We have the Asaba wood, which is a major creative. During Davos, there was a major part of what we presented to the world was our creative nature, our creativeness. We have that in abundance in Anioma land. So when we talk about the fact that selling yourself to the diplomatic is what you have internally that you're going to sell or market to the international community. We want to look forward to a state, a Delta state, and by God's grace, when we have Anioma, an Anioma state, that both can now be better exposed to the world. We're craving for better exposure. We're craving for the export of our capacity out there in the world. We have a lot of capable men and women from Anioma land. And that's what is a burning desire for me, actually, when I talk about the internal dynamics of my country.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Great conversation. Thank you. And I look forward to more conversations with you. Gloria Kolugbo, Consultants, Communications and International Engagement. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's our package tonight, marking the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumo Kedebu using the hashtag Politics Tonight. You're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News NG.
In a world where news never sleeps, we're taking a giant leap into the future. We at TVC Communications are proud to introduce a new era in news broadcasting. But first, let me introduce my special friend, Olamide AI. Hi, Olamide Human. Is it time to come out yet? Yes, indeed it is. And you can bring your friends along. Meet our new AI anchors, speaking your language and sharing your stories. From English, good day. These are the news headlines, to Pidgin.
Better country people, on a good evening.
Yoruba, Ekaro, Ekodede Asikoyi, Shedadalabayi, Igbo,
Ndewo, Auto Innovation, Ahambu Obada Samson Ejiro,
and Hausa.
Mutane na sanar da zuwa, sunana Rakiya Abdulkarim kuma kana kallon TVC News.
We are bringing the news closer to you, faster, smarter, and always reliable. And together, we are shaping the future of news for every Nigerian, everywhere. Innovation, connection, and trust. The future of news is here.
TVC News, first with breaking news. And now first in Nigeria with AI news anchors.
Meet Benga Oreshegun, a fearless voice and an advocate for the truth. He's bringing fresh energy and bold insights to Journalists Hangout.
Get ready for deeper analysis and dynamic perspectives. Join me and Babajide Kolade Otitoju with other veteran journalists on Journalists Hangout. Weekdays from 5 p.m. and on Sundays 1:30 p.m.